Hey everyone, Dylan here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my personal kind of, not even about maybe mine, but about instruments and playing instruments and the instruments I enjoyed playing the most. Just kind of to talk about, go into a little bit more about, last week's video about my top 5 list. But if you do not know, I have played a couple different instruments. I have played the tenor saxophone, and I believe I have a video about instruments I have played. If you want me to talk more about that, maybe this is a little redundant, but I played the tenor saxophone in 6th grade, and I played it for like 3 weeks. So I didn't really play it. I didn't know what I was doing. So that one's kind of a little weird. I also didn't completely play the violin. I never really got to play much and really learn how to play the instrument, but I learned a lot about it, I'll tell you that much. And I also, of course, played an electric guitar. I've played acoustic guitars. I've played piano. And those are kind of the instruments that I've played in a nutshell. The ones I really learned how to play were guitar and piano. And the only one I still play on once in a while is piano. I kind of got bored with guitar, and I just don't stick to guitar. I just kind of keep dropping it when I do start playing it. Also, if I do stop for a while with guitar, you have to, because the strings are hard, you build calluses on your fingers, and if you go too long, your calluses will go away, and then your fingers will hurt when you go to play again. And once I lost my calluses again, after I picked it back up, I just kind of was like, I just kind of stopped. I don't know. I just get bored with guitar. I don't know why. Even though it's like an easy instrument to take and play because you can move it around. It's not like set at one place, but I kind of will go into about level of difficulty in playing instruments. In my personal opinion, I'm not sure about maybe sight wise, but going blind or being blind, I would say that guitar is harder than piano. And the reason why I say this is because when I pick the guitar back up, I'm blind at this point. And so one thing that, I don't know how many people know, but there are frets, and you have to hold down each string when you want to change the notes, and you have to have it really close to the fret. Well, being blind, I don't have the accuracy for that, and so I had a bit of trouble with that, and sometimes not being close enough to the frets, and especially with bar chords, and if you wanted to do some maybe plucking on the strings, that took some accuracy. Forget me using a pick. I just used my thumb when I was strumming, because using a pick, I would have harder accuracy. So I think in that regard, I feel like guitar would be harder being blind. And because piano, it's just all laid out there. You just got to get used to where everything is, and you can just play and have more fun. You can use more fingers if you want. You don't hurt your fingers and fingertips. You don't have to have calluses on your fingers. Even if you have an electric piano, a digital keyboard or whatever, you don't have to tune it. You don't have to keep it in tune. You don't have to change the strings. There's no maintenance. So I think just in those ways, it's just a lot easier. And even with the sharps and flats, they stick out, so you can kind of find your bearings where you are, If you aren't completely set where you are, just feel like, okay, are there three sharps and flats, or are there 2? And if there are 2, then you can be like, okay. And if you're in between those 2, then okay, there's D. And then, right next to that is C. And you can kind of figure your way out a little bit easier. So I think as far as blindness goes, I feel like, piano would be easier. Not saying that you can't play guitar if you're blind or whatever, because you can. It's just a little more work and to learn more accuracy type deals. I don't know about sight, even though I did learn them both sighted. I guess it would really depend. The points still stand with a digital piano, like, because you don't have to tune it, you don't have to deal with the strings, you don't have to build calluses, you don't have to hold down frets. So I guess with that, I would still probably say piano is still easier, even like if you don't consider about like sight or anything. I still think piano is easier. Now, that by no means, degrades or, pushes down the people who do play piano. You do need to have a good, you build skills and dexterity in your fingers, and to be able to play notes clearly, play them evenly, to be able to go fast, to have stretching, all these different things, playing octaves, playing like the scales, playing octave scales, all this stuff, you still need a lot of, skills that you need to build up. Even though I'm saying that piano is easier, it's still not, a walk in the park unless you're really talented. But I firmly believe as long as someone practices enough, I believe anyone can play, a guitar, a piano. They just have to practice it and work at it. And of course, some people have better skill sets. Some will learn it faster. Some will learn it slower. All it matters is that you keep working at it and you will eventually get there. It just depends, right? But I do believe anyone can do it with practice. And so I guess that kind of leads me to, I don't remember much about the tenor saxophone, I'm going to be really honest. All I remember is it was really big and I was really small comparatively to holding it. And I just know you hold it kind of like this, I don't know. And you had, what was it called? You had this piece of wood that goes under the mouthpiece, and I think it's called a reed. I could be wrong, if you like messed it up or yours broke or whatever, like our band teacher or whatever would like make you pay $1 to get a new one, but you put it under there and you I think push it with your mouth in between like the piece, and you push it up and then you blow. And I remember one thing though, that you're not supposed to get the wooden piece wet with saliva. You needed to try to avoid doing that. Then you would blow, and then you'd hold down one of the valve thingies. I don't know what the name is, to be really honest. And then you would like make a note and all that, and then you would like switch. I didn't really learn too much about it, to be honest, but because even when I was learning the tenor saxophone, I was in the back, because as I said, there was only 2 tenor saxophone players, me and another guy that ended up becoming my friend, and we were in the back, and I still had bad eyesight, so I couldn't like see anything he was teaching. Or when we had our books, I had to have my friend try to help me out figuring out what to do. So I didn't really learn too much about the tenor saxophone. So that's kind of my experience there. My experience with acoustic guitar and piano, I just kind of got my own electric piano and just learned by looking up videos and doing different stuff. I'm still not great by any means, so I've never been taught by an actual teacher on those things. Same with guitar. I just looked it up and just figured it out on my own. And that's kind of how I learned those and played those. And like I said, I'm not very great. Maybe at some point I can show me playing the piano or something and showing people how I do that or whatever. Not that I'm really great at it. And then there's the violin. Sorry if this video is a little long. I have a lot to say about instruments. But with violin is a fucking monster. Okay? I'm just going to say that right now. I had no idea. The one thing that I've tried a lot of different things. I wouldn't even go so far to say I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none, because I'm not even that good at it. So, but like I've tried several things that give me more respect for the people that do things like animation. I tried getting into animation, and just to make. And I didn't have fancy computers, I just did it in an app on a tablet. But just to make like a little crappy 11-second animation, it took me hours and hours of making frame after frame, just at 24 frames a second. It was nuts. And so I'm like, that was just to make like 11 seconds. I'm like, these people that make like 20-minute episodes, I had so much more respect for them. So I have a lot more respect. But with violin, I did not learn to actually play it. But in the midst of learning, I learned a lot. So for starters, some people might not know this, but you cannot just, the bow, there's the bow and then there's the hair, and you take it and you think you run it just across the strings on the violin. No. First, you have to put something called rosin on it. Rosin is basically this tree sap that is hardened, and you have to break the top layer off and get enough on your bow, and then, and only then, will it make a sound when you take it across the strings. But that's not the only thing before you can start playing. I apologize if you hear my cat. She's meowing at the door. But then you have to focus on a holding technique. You have to hold the bow correctly with your fingers and hold it correctly before you even start, and get your hands and strength build up to hold it properly. Then, not only that, you have to learn bowing technique, because you're not supposed to bow with your elbow. You're supposed to bow with your wrist and your, like you can't use your shoulder. You can use your elbow and your wrist, and you bow up and down the strings. Now, there's even more to this. So you have to learn to be able to, go up the arches, because I never knew this, because I never looked at a violin until I tried learning one. The violin strings are set up in arches, so they're not flat. So that way you have to, when you're bowing, you arch your hand up to go up and down the strings in an arch curve. That way you can hit each individual string. And so you have to learn to do that. And you have to learn how much pressure to use on the strings and all that. And that's just that. Violin is so technique heavy. Then, of course, you have to put the violin, depending on whether you're right or left-handed, on your collarbone and make sure you have it held in place that way. And then you have to hold it a specific way with your hand to get it held right. And then once you have all that together, then you might think, okay, you could start bowing and playing, but no. There's still a little bit more, because you think you'd be done. But unlike the guitar, the violin does not have frets where you can feel the fret to hold it. No, you have to learn where to hold down the string, or else you will hit the wrong note. You do not have a fret to give you a guideline of where you need to be. So that makes it even more harder. So you add that all together and you have a monster of a technique, filled thing with the violin. And once I learned all that, I may have not gotten to really play it too much, but I had so much more respect for the people that do, for how much the violin has to be the hardest instrument to learn to play. I'm just convinced. With everything you have to learn and all the steps you have to take, oh boy. And then you still have to build up your fingers and calluses, I believe. So yeah, that's just about playing instruments. The one I kind of like to play the most and the easiest, in my opinion, is the piano. It's just easy and nice and free, and you don't have all these conditions like strings and bows and rosin and tuning it or whatever. So I just think it's a lot easier and nicer, and I just like to play it. It's just relaxing and nice. But not to say I didn't like playing guitar. I liked it a little bit, but I did get bored of it. And then my experience with trying to learn the other two, and so much experience with the violin. But I hope you guys can have respect for people who play violin now, because if you didn't know, hopefully you do know now. But hopefully this video wasn't too long. I rambled a lot about playing instruments and just me playing the instruments and which one's my favorite. But anyways, talk about it in the comments below if you would like anything you want to talk about this. But I have been Dylan, as you know. I don't know, I'm just out of my mind today. But you can see I'm really passionate about instruments. But anyways, thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.